Lead me in from the wilderness. Lead me in through the way.
So we began just a number of hours ago talking about what it is to be outside of the curtain. So it's a place of knowledge, of belief, of knowing all the right things, but never putting that into, never making that decision that I need to act upon what I have been taught. So it's a place that, depart from me, I never knew you. Though you were doing the right things, you never really figured out why you were doing those things. To me, it goes back to a verse that I use many times. In Psalm 40, verse 7, it says this, "Behold, I am coming. In the scroll of the book, it is written of me." Now, what scroll of what book is that speaking of? At the time that the books of Psalm were written, it would have been speaking directly of the Torah. So within the pages of the Torah, we can look at the black words on the white paper and just see black words on white paper, or we can see the faces of Messiah. So if we are looking in the Torah and we are not finding Messiah, then we've really missed the reason for the Torah. The Torah is not given to us so we can become smarter than our Christian brothers and sisters and the person next to us or whatever. The Torah is given to us to be a foundational revelation of who the Messiah is. For if the Messiah that we are following does not line up with the Messiah revealed in Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, then we are following a different Messiah. Everything must line up. The end must line up from the beginning, must line up to the end. Revelation 21 must line up with Genesis chapter 1, must line up with Revelation chapter 22. And that must then be internalized and received personally. So we go from there to the inner court, a place of service, a place of activity, a place of duty. There's much that's happening in the outer court, a place that the sacrifice and the constant going back and forth between the altar of sacrifice, the brazen laver, back and forth, to the point that in that day there would have been a literal trail of blood and water. There would have been connecting those two items. We then go to the holy place, a place of preparation, a place of prayer, a place of praise. And we've gone through really a progression of Messiah in our lives. For we are at the gate, we are reconciled unto Him. At the altar, we are redeemed. At the laver, we're sanctified. At the menorah, we receive the illumination from Him for our lives. At the table of showbread, we are satisfied. At the altar of incense, a place that we take it all and then we put it back up toward Him in thanksgiving and worship for what He has given to us. Now, I can tell you that what we've done right now, up until this point, is something that you can do daily. This is a pattern. Okay? He has not just thrown us out there without instruction. He's given us a pattern, and so we can literally every single morning use this Every time that we pray, we can use this as a pattern of prayer. Let me illustrate that to you. Father, I thank you that by giving me entrance through the gate, you have reconciled me unto yourself. I thank you that you have shed the blood upon the altar so that I may be redeemed. You've taken me to your laver to give me the life-giving water of the Word. I thank you for the illumination of the 7 spirits from your throne. May I walk in the total revelation, the complete revelation of who you are today. I thank you for giving me the bread, the body of Messiah that satisfies me today. May I become part of the revelation of your face to someone else. I thank you for the incense and the ability, the right, the honor to stand before you. I thank you for you have interceded for me so I can intercede for others. Now as I stand before your throne, may my prayers be a sweet-smelling savor. As I leave this place, may my life and my walk today be sweet before you. That's the pattern. That's the pattern of prayer right there. So amazing. We have in front of us another gate, which tradition says was called life. Yeah, that wasn't a trick there. So when Yeshua says, I am the way, the truth, and the life, no man comes into the presence of the Father but by me. Do you see the obvious connection to the tabernacle? He was literally saying to the people that were there standing in front of him, unless you understand the message of the mirror image given to Moshe on Mount Sinai, you have no idea who's standing in front of you. Wow. And if you don't know who's standing in front of you, you cannot enter into his presence. To understand the tabernacle is to understand the pattern of protocol to intimacy and complete reconciliation to our Creator. Wow. Now, as the entrance called truth was held up by 5 pillars, the entrance called life is held up by 4. Well, if 5 is the first 5 books of Torah, then to me, it's pretty obvious that the life, the pillars called life, would be about the Torah being manifested, the living Torah, the written Torah being manifested as a living Torah, which is revealed to us in the first 4 books of the renewed covenant. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. In fact, in front of us is the woven, the veil that is there woven with the colors of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn. And if we go back to the meanings of that, the purple is royalty, blue is the one who came from the heavens, scarlet is the Messiah who died for us. So it literally says right in front of us, King Yeshua the Messiah, who is revealed in the Gospels. Now, here's a tragedy. I am not trying to be in any way today judgmental. I hope that's coming across. Sometimes I'm right on that edge. But I just want to try to point out what I have observed as truth. That many of us, myself, I started going to church 9 months before I was born. Some of you catch that later. And I was taught mainly the words to the right of Matthew. The only time that I was taught the words to the left were Bible stories of Bible characters for flannel graph and stuff, and I'm thankful. I am thankful for my Southern Baptist Vacation Bible School teachers, my pastors, my Sunday school teachers that gave me some foundation so that I could build upon that. I'm not mad at anybody. But with that being said, we were not taught about the Torah. We were taught that the law has been done away with, which means that I cannot enter into the fullness of His presence because you can't get to the truth of the complete truth of the Gospels until you come through the Torah. That's an important statement. You cannot get to the fullness of the truth of the Gospels without coming through the Torah. Amen. You know why I love this? Why I love this teaching? Because in 75 to 100 times that I've done it, every time I say something that I hadn't said before, I've never said those words. I heard them coming out of my mouth the same as you did. I don't know what I said. No. We cannot come to, I got to go back and listen to the tape, Eleanor. We cannot come to the fullness of understanding of the Gospels unless we go through the Torah to get there. But here's a problem. That many people who have come into this understanding of the Torah have entered in through those 5 books, but when the veil called life is in front of them, they turn their back on those books and look back at the Torah. The Torah is to direct us. The written word is to direct us to the living word. They will tie together. Let us not be guilty of turning our back. I find myself going back in these days to the Gospels. And I'm finding that my understanding, with every Torah cycle that I go through, my understanding of the books of the renewed covenant becomes greater. The veil. Woven into the curtain are the cherubim, the guardians of the throne room of Elohim. The cherubim are reminders of the garden. What is behind this veil is what was lost by the disobedience of the first man, Adam, but has now been restored, recovered by the obedience. The disobedience took it away. The obedience of the last Adam restored it. Adam, I'm going to bring this out. I was talking to someone in the break. Why did Yeshua have to come? Now, I know that we've heard different things. I want to give you something to think about. Over in Isaiah chapter 9, is a revelation of His purpose. Isaiah chapter 9, very familiar words to most of us, I'm sure. In order to understand these words, we must go back to Bereshit Genesis and see that Adam was brought forth on this earth. He is a man of dirt that is infused with the Ruach, the spirit of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, the Creator. That man of dirt, infused with the Spirit, is given dominion over the earth. In his disobedience, he gives away dominion over the earth. Because the book called Scripture is a legal binding book, the Almighty has bound Himself to the words of the book. Interesting enough that when he gave us the word, he bound himself to the word. So he must work within the principles of the word. So if there is to be a mirror image of the heavenly realm on the earthly realm, it must be done through a man which is created from dirt that is infused by the Spirit. Isaiah chapter 9. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. Dominion will rest on his shoulders. He will be given the name, Wonderful Counselor, Mighty Elohim, Father of Eternity, Prince of Peace, in order to extend dominion and perpetuate the peace of the throne and kingdom of David. Unto us a child of dirt from the loins of Adam was born. But unto us a son is given. The son didn't come from the loins of Adam. The son came from the heavens. The child which is given is a place for the son to reside, to bring back dominion over the earth. And the son which is in the child will be called Eternal Father. So if you want to know the Father, get to know the child. Hello. If you want to know who the Father is, look at who the child became. Okay, let me move on from there. I can feel tilt going on, like in my own head. Every time I talk about that, it's like, I don't know if I really got that or not, but I think I do. So we see that once a year, the priest would go into the Kodesh Kodeshim, the Holy of Holies, to provide a temporary covering for all of Israel. Some 2,000 years ago, this is a picture of the Eastern Gate. Yeah, may it be open soon and in our day. I love this picture because it proves the words that are attributed to John Wayne. It's hard to stop stupid. Because the people decided that they saw the scripture says that Messiah would return through the eastern gate. So what they do? They blocked it up. Stupid is as stupid does. And then they decide, okay, well, maybe that won't work, so we'll put a cemetery because the Messiah will not become unclean going through a cemetery. Really? Okay. Yeah, if stupid hurt, those people would be in for a bad day, I tell you. So, but this is a gate. Again, may it be open soon in our day. Oh, yes. 2,000 years ago, a Torah observant Jew, a rabbi, a priest, a king, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, hung upon an execution stake on a hill at the base of Golgotha. His last words, "It is finished." Just a thought. The one who spoke the world into existence was now hanging upon an execution stake with his arms outstretched, the same as the high priest would have done, overlooking the Passover sacrifice as the priest would have done. But Caiaphas, who has ripped his outer garment, has made himself disqualified to be the high priest. So the true high priest is rightfully taking over the position. And as he sees the slaughter of the Passover lamb, he is the fulfillment of that which is happening in the natural. And he is the one that can utter the words, "It is finished." Yes. Which means there's nothing you and I can add to it. We can't add to those words. Finished is finished. When it's done, it's done. For anybody that would question, why do and I don't call myself Torah observant. Last thing we need is more people looking at it and not doing anything. And I don't call myself Torah observant because I don't get it right all the time. I don't know that I'm right on this issue and that issue and the other issue. I don't know. I don't think there is anybody out there that really knows. But the words that were spoken by the commander to Joshua, it's when you enter this land, pursue the Torah. So I call myself Torah pursuant. I want to be found running after it, because in running after it, I find him, the one who is the completion and finisher of everything, the author and finisher. So why do I pursue his word? Is to find him, not his acceptance. My acceptance was on an execution stake. My lifestyle is because of my acceptance. There are many discussions regarding the veil. I've had discussions with Rico and with various others, and I'm going to give you just a principle here, and this is, I want you to get past which veil and all of those things. But we're talking about that it says that in the second temple, that there was a veil that was some 60 feet long, 30 feet wide, 4 inches thick, a veil which took some 300 priests to hang. Now, go back to Exodus. Read those verses. Find where it says in there that you are to make a curtain. The word can be translated veil or curtain. How did a veil become a curtain? A veil is that which you can see through. It may be obscured slightly, but you can see through it. A curtain cannot be seen through, especially when it is 4 inches thick. How does a veil become a curtain? It is in one word, religion. Religion will take veils and make them curtains every time. Because you're not smart enough to see. Only we can see. We'll go in and we'll see and we'll report back to you what is there. Whichever veil, whichever curtain it was, it's the message that I want to bring out. And that is that the veil, the curtain was ripped from the top to the bottom, which says this work did not come from this earth. This work came from the heavens. He ripped it. Man did not.
Amen. That's good.
Only Yah himself can rip curtains from above so that you can see clearly. If someone has a curtain in front of them, how's it working? How you doing it ripping it from the bottom? Instead of trying to rip it from the bottom, pray that he'll rip it from the top. Now, it is recorded that in the Talmud and the other writings, it says some 40 years prior to the destruction of the temple. Now, I wasn't real good at math or any other subject. That's another subject. But I can say that, 70, the temple destroyed in 70, about 40 years prior to, that makes it around the year 30. Okay, I'm smart enough to know that's about the time of Yeshua. But you can't say some things right out, okay? So some 40 years prior to the destruction of the temple, a few things happened. First of all, they would put a scarlet cord on the door of the temple, and it would turn white. We're talking about the scapegoat. But some 40 years prior to the destruction of the temple, this scarlet cord no longer turned white. Why? It is finished. In the evening, the priest would come and they would fill the menorah with oil, and they would trim the wicks and make sure everything was just right. But some 40 years prior to the destruction of the temple, the menorah no longer would be lit in the morning. But the most striking one to me, and quite frankly, the scariest one to me, is that at night they would close the doors leading into the holy place. But some 40 years prior to the destruction of the temple, the next morning, the doors would be wide open. Now consider for a moment the meaning of this, that the curtain has been torn from the top to the bottom. If you were to be able to stand there and look into the temple, into the courtyard, in the morning with the sun rising behind your back, it would give light into the temple, the holy place, the Holy of Holies. So if the door is open, the temple, the curtain is down, you can see all the way to the back wall. And what are you seeing? An empty room. Nothing. I can look in Exodus chapter 40. I can see where the Ark of the Covenant, the Shekinah, resided in the tabernacle. I can see this in the first temple. I can see this in the second temple. But I do not see, nor have I ever found anyone that has seen where? In Herod's temple, the Shekinah, nor the Ark of the Covenant, never resided in there. But religion was saying, God is in our midst. He's here with us. But they were lying. They were covering up for an empty room. Why is this scary to me? Why is this a teaching that I tremble over? Because of my own prayer. It's been my prayer since about the time I started doing this teaching, that ministries, organizations, and denominations that are no more than empty rooms, that the Father would reveal them. That's not the part that bothers me, though. It's the second part of my prayer. Father, may I not be one of those that's revealed as having nothing behind what I'm doing. May I be proclaiming that which is in my life, not telling them something and living something else. The tearing of the veil, the curtain, is not a salvation issue. Redemption is out there. It's in the outer court. It's in entering into the way. It's in going to the altar of sacrifice. This is not about salvation. This is about relationship. Entering into a place of relationship with Him. Let us confidently approach the throne from which Yah gives grace so that we may find mercy and grace in time of need. Let us confidently approach. I have prayed over this numerous times. I don't know if I'm right. That bothers me. I've sought counsel on this, and I'm not sure that we're right, but this is where I've come to. That this walkthrough that we will do in a little while, again, it's a representation. Okay? I'm not reenacting. I'm not a priest. But so why would I do this? Why would I be able to walk through this and experience this? Is because of this verse. Let me explain it this way. When the priest, the high priest, when he entered in, he had an ephod. On there was he was carrying the tribes. He was carrying the people. They were entering in with him. The tabernacle was not able to hold all the people. So one man came in with all the people. To be found in him. Not having my own form of righteousness. To be found in him. So if Messiah is literally doing the work of the high priest today in the heavenly realm, tabernacle, and I am in him, when he enters, I enter. So this representation is a shadow of what he is doing. I barely keep up with that. Yeah, I know. Crazy, isn't it? The Holy of Holies. Let me move on before my brain overloads. Oh, that's an easy thing. The Holy of Holies contains the ark and the Shekinah. The Shekinah, the glory. It is the only light in the Kodesh Kodeshim, the Holy of Holies. It is written of that light that it revealed all. You've left the darkness of the sun of the desert to enter into the light of the Son of Yah. Because when you've seen him, you've seen the Father. Oh, to be Pentecostal and be able to run again. Come on, Herman. I tell you what. It is said that the light revealed all. That if you were to go into the Holy of Holies, that it was like the light was coming from everywhere, but coming from nowhere. You know, with the menorah, you could see there's the light, and there's where it's shining, and there's the shadow that it's giving over there. But in the Holy of Holies, because the light is not coming from anywhere, yet it's coming from everywhere, there's no shadows. In him there is no shadow of turning. So if you were to look up underneath the Ark of the Covenant, it's as bright under there as it is on top.
Glorious image.
There's no shadow, which means there's nowhere to hide.
True.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's what keeps many people out.
Sad.
Desire to hide. To hide that which is in our life. It's a place that there's nothing to do. In the outer court, you can sacrifice and the laver, and in the holy place, we can trim the menorah, and we can put new bread on the table and put some incense. But then we come into the Holy of Holies, and there's nothing to do. It's a place of Psalm 46. Be still and know that I am Yahuwah. Be still and know I am. It's a place of Selah. I wondered for years what that verse meant. And you don't find that verse in Strong's. You know, that word, it's Selah. So you go on and it says, well, it's a musical note, a pause, or it's like, yeah, something else is here. I finally got a revelation of this word. The word Selah is this. Whatever it comes after, look back and consider that which you have read in light of his kingdom. Consider that which you have read in light of eternity. The word Selah is a word that should be our life, a focus of a life, a meditation of a life. What dynamic is my life based upon eternity? I guess this begins to be more clear the older you get. You begin to consider life. You know, Methuselah is the oldest man. Was he 969 years old, I think it is?
Yeah.
Something like that. You know what it says about Methuselah? He died. He died. Noah died younger, but look at his impact. Life is not about duration, it's about impact. Life is defined not by two dates, but by the dash that's between them. The two dates are two events. The dash is what you did between the events. I want my dash to be really, really deep. And to do that, I need to keep in the foremost of my thoughts, my doing, am I doing that which is important? Because this place of the Holy of Holies reminds me that I am a human being, not a human doing. That bothers me. Because I'm a person that likes to do. Shabbat was hard for me in the first days. It's tough. I made it till about 11 o'clock. I'd be looking at the dog, come on, let's go dig a hole. You know? Changed a little bit. It's just the way this is how I'm wired. But I know that I need to replace my wiring because he's got better voltage. He's got better wiring. Because if I don't use his wiring, I'm going to burn out in this thing. That means I got to have times of being, not just always doing. Inside the ark, the table or the tablets of the Torah, the jar of manna. I love that jar of manna. Manna every night it just gone. I wonder where that jar is today. Is it in Qumran somewhere under the dirt? When I'm in Qumran, let me tell you, I'm like, whoa. I remember being in Shiloh years ago, and we were walking around, and this is before it became a touristy place. It's during the Intifada, and we're walking around there. Those that have been there, it's that building that's there, the Byzantine mosaics on the floor. Well, we're walking around outside not knowing that 6 inches under our feet's a whole other mosaic. I went back and they've dug that, they cleaned it off. It's like, whoa. Right where I was walking, there was a huge wine press. I didn't know that was under my feet. I go to Qumran. Wonder what's down there. I might be walking on top of the menorah. The real one. Somewhere there's a jar of manna. And it's as fresh today as it was then. The bread of life never goes stale. The bread of life never grows mold. And the bread of life doesn't even need preservatives. Aaron's budding rod. You ever thought about it? It's still budding. He spoke life into that rod and it budded, which means it's still budding. What he speaks life into never dies. That's why you and I will just take off and put on. If you read in the paper that I died, they lied. I just changed from one place to another. I want to go back. I'll finish this up in a second, but no, I'll go on. I'll get to it. The tablets of the 10 Commandments are in the ark. The rest of the Torah is written outside and sitting out there. The ark is the first item to be built by Moses. It's the innermost workings. The word heart in English is about this thing, this organ in our chest. It could be no farther away from what the truth of the wording really is. That word that is translated heart is Barry Phillips probably said it the best, it's our knower. You know where your knower is? Yeah, it's down inside there somewhere behind this thing. It's not up here. That's your brain. That's why the word says, your word have I hidden in my, can I translate it in Southern? Your word have I hidden in my knower, that I may not sin against you. He didn't say to hide it in your brain. Hide it in your innermost being. Yeah, but let it be a part of you. The priest would enter in to the Holy of Holies once a year to sprinkle blood on the mercy seat 7 times. We see Yeshua shedding his blood 7 times. Gethsemane, scourging, a crown of thorns, a nail in his left hand, a nail in his right. From my research, 1 nail went through both feet, and a sword that pierced his side. 7 times. I just wonder if when the priest went into the Holy of Holies with the blood from the altar, if he sprinkled it in the shape of a man upon the mercy seat. I don't know. But see, this is important. The blood will never lose its power. Why? Because his blood will never lose its life. When the priest went into the Holy of Holies, he took the blood of an animal and he sprinkled it upon the mercy seat, and within moments, that blood began to die. That blood dried on the mercy seat. But when Messiah placed his blood upon the mercy seat, it never died. It never dried. If I've said anything that I have a hard time understanding today, and I've said much that I've had a hard time understanding, this one goes beyond everything that I've ever considered. That wrap up everything, this is beyond it. When Messiah's blood was placed upon the heavenly realm altar, it was alive and is still wet with life today. So when we sing the song, "The blood will never lose its power," it's been much more than what we've thought we were saying. The blood upon an altar in the heavenly realm is today life, is wet. That's why I can have life today, because of wet, alive blood in the heavens. Now, the tabernacle. We've talked about 6 different items in the tabernacle. The altar of sacrifice, the laver, the menorah, the table of showbread, the altar of incense, the Ark of the Covenant. But let's take that tabernacle and turn it up on its end. Let's add something else here, and please understand that when it comes to graphics, it's hard to get exact, but I think you can get the picture. What do you see? Messiah. The tabernacle was always about him. The tabernacle is always about him. The tabernacle is today about him. And we see the picture of Messiah in the tabernacle, to the point that when the spear was placed in his side, what came out? Blood and water. What is there at the place of his side? The laver which contained blood and water. To say that the tabernacle is done away with is to say that the revelation of Messiah is done away with. But we began with a statement today. You are the tabernacle of the living Elohim. Is it possible that that is actually true? I think so. But before I give you that point, let me put something else in here. The tabernacle built by Moses contained 6 elements. Once again, altar of sacrifice, the laver, the menorah, the table of showbread, the altar of incense, and the Holy of Holies, the Ark of the Covenant. 6 is the number of man. 6 is not a complete number. See, the tabernacle was all that man could do in his own power. The tabernacle never became complete until the 7th element was added to it, the Shekinah, the presence of Yah. It is the presence of Yah that makes man's work complete. Next level, you are the tabernacle of the living Elohim. We can see this, that the place that is and I was talking with someone earlier that's doing some research about how some of the glands and the workings behind, I don't understand this, but I don't understand a lot, do I? Why am I the teacher? I don't know. There's bones that are structured that even look like cherubim wings, and right there behind our ocular, the place of his presence. Is that where our knower is located? Is there a place for that to be? That we are to put on the mind of Messiah. Where's the mind of Messiah? It's in the Ark of the Covenant. He has given us his mind in the Torah. The Torah, my best definition, I love this definition, not original. The definition of Torah, the expressed will of Elohim unto mankind. So he has given us his mind. The altar of incense, that which is breathed in. That which comes forth through our mouth. How are we doing in what enters into and what exits out of this natural body? That which we allow to come into our eyes, our senses, our being, and that which protrudes from. The menorah, the table of showbread. I used to teach this different, and some youth talked to me one day about this, and I really loved what they said, that these two pieces here are like in the position of our hands, that we give his light, we give his presence, his face. It's through the things that we do that he is revealed unto others. It is not by what we say that he is revealed, but what we do that he is revealed. The laver, in the same way that in our guts, that things churn. Digestion is about the things getting in there, churning. I'm meditating on these things, and they're bringing nourishment to my physical body. The same as when I churn the Word. I meditate on his Word, that it brings spiritual life into me. The altar of sacrifice. There's an area of our lives that is a gift from the Almighty. Has been perverted. Today is even worse. It's worse by the day. It reminds us that every gift that he gives us must be subjected to the power of his blood. No matter if it is the greatest act of intimacy, anything we do. For men, he's given us circumcision, the letting of blood. For women, a monthly cycle, the letting of blood, in order that we may remember that every gift that he gives us must be subjected to the power of his blood, and if not, it will be perverted for other causes. But those 6 items does not make a complete man. It is the 7th item, His presence, that makes us complete. I start out the day, finish up here. I start out the day by telling you that the tabernacle is very important to me, in that it was back in the mid-90s that I began to a study of the tabernacle, and it brought me into this walk. I had been brought up replacement theology. I had been brought up, the Torah has been done away with. It was the tabernacle that opened my eyes to the wonders of His Word. A completion. That I was able to give away, toss whatever, my books on apologetics, because all of a sudden Genesis lines up with Revelation. I don't need apologetics anymore. But that's the secondary reason why this is an important teaching to me. Because in the mid-80s, my life was not what it is today. I won't go into details. I had never really run from God, but I had a skewed revelation of who He was based upon His people. I'd had a problem with some of them. In the midst of a number of years of life, I, like many, was searching. Going from place to place and putting ladders up on the wrong walls and climbing them, only to find that I had to come back down and trying to find another wall. There was a day in which my grandmother's prayers, may her memory be blessed. A day in which my grandmother's prayers began to catch up with me. Some of you have the same testimony. It wasn't the prettiest day, but it was the best day. And I remember sitting in an apartment. Again, I'm not going to go into the details. Gotten smart enough through the years to not put out everything, because it will be used against you. But I looked up to the heavens one Sunday morning and I said, God, I've kind of made a mess of my life here. If there's anything you can do with it, please, it's yours. That was my sinner's prayer. Life changed that day. Started going to a Nazarene church. My wife and I went the first Sunday. We sat through about halfway in the back. And we left, and my wife looked at me and a little cautious that day for a lot of reasons and said, so what do you think of the service? I said, well, I thought it was pretty good preaching. I just wish that bunch of old men up there had quit saying amen so much so I can hear the message. Well, it was about 3 weeks later. I was right in the middle of them. Learned how to say amen. Because every one of us has to say amen our right way. I'd never forget. Amen. Amen. I knew who it was by their amen, just as much as a fingerprint. I was right there in the middle of them. And one day, one of them asked me and my wife, to come over for lunch. It was kind of funny. Here I'm 28 and John's 84. His wife's not much back of that. And we sat down in his living room and we started talking. And I started sharing a little bit of my testimony, and John started crying. We had some cream puffs. Oh, Marie could make some cream puffs. Probably had pork somewhere in there. Yeah, some lard. We had to leave. So we got up and John said, let's pray. We're not in church. Okay. So we gathered together in the center of his living room there. It was green carpet. You got sculptured kind, ugly. Yeah, avocado green, yeah. Gold curtains. 70s was not a good era. There was a light fixture right in the center of the room. And I stood up and my wife stood next to me and John was on the other side and his wife, who was about 4'0" was across from me. John had been a Sears mechanic most of his life. You just never really figured that the guy putting your die hard in is real spiritual, you know. He had a hand about the size of a grizzly bear. He grabbed my hand and he started to pray. And when he prayed, he touched the heavens. And that afternoon, I felt something. Something entered into my being. We said our final amens, and we turned and walked away. And I remember sitting in the car. My wife sat down, and I said, I don't know what that is that I just experienced. I don't know what just happened to me, but whatever it was, that's what I've been searching for all of my life. And I'll do whatever I have to do to keep that from ever leaving again. It was the day that the Shekinah entered the tabernacle. So this that I've taught today, maybe an attempt to teach something, is not about you knowing something more and being able to impress somebody. It's not about any of that. What it's about is this. It's about His presence entering into our lives. Because without His presence, all we are is some dirt. We can be good-looking dirt. We can shine the dirt. We can put stuff on the dirt. We put dirt on the dirt to make the dirt look better. In the end, it's just dirt. Until His life enters in. So that's why I travel around and do this. Because I'm praying somebody in this room today, you came here and your dirt needs to be filled. I'm praying that somebody watching and walking through with me in just a few moments, that your dirt is going to be filled. That you're going to receive. Interesting word, receive, in English. In order to receive, you must have already had. You can't receive something that you've never had before. You can sieve something, but you cannot receive. You have to have sieved before you can receive. So when His Spirit enters into your dirt, you're not sieving, you're receiving. When Adam was formed in the garden, we know later on in the writings that there was something hidden within Adam. It was called Eve. So Eve is already there and then is revealed. But she was already there. There was something else in Adam. Me. You. We came, our dirt being came from the loins of Adam. Every single person born was in Adam. It's like holding up a seed. You know what's inside a seed? A forest. It's not a tree, it's a forest. And in the loins of Adam, in his original seed, is the world. Every dirt person was in Adam. Which means that when the Almighty spoke into Adam, He spoke into me. I heard His voice. I was in Adam, so I heard His voice. But because of the fall, the Spirit could no longer reside, so it was lost. So when I was once again filled with the Spirit, I received. It was a voice I had heard before. And that is why I could look at my wife and say, that which I experienced in that house right there in Tucson, Arizona, is what I've been looking for my whole life. Why? I was trying to find what I had heard. I was wanting to hear what I had heard. And it came into my life. That's my prayer. I don't want you to remember me. I don't want you to remember every detail of everything I've said. I want you to remember He wants to reside in you. He wants to dwell in you. He wants to return to where He's been. He longs to be where He's been more than you long for it. That one might keep me awake tonight. I want to give you some instructions. Don't go anywhere. Right now, I just give you some instructions. In a few moments, and you that are watching me right here, I want you to listen. Because we're going to do this here as a group. And as soon as we're finished here, then I'm going to walk through this as your representation. So I want you to, first of all, in a few minutes, you're going to grab a piece of paper. If you don't have any, I'm sure there's some somewhere, and a pen, pencil, whatever. And I want you to write down a prayer request. Just something. I don't know, I'm not going to give you really guidelines, but if He was to walk in the room after you got up off the floor, what would you like to converse with Him? Okay? Don't write a book, but just, I've had some books written. And so you're going to after when I dismiss you, you're going to walk through those doors. The only entrance in and out is through there. If you try to come in any other way, like through the back door, we're going to consider you a thief and a robber. Anybody that tried to come into the tabernacle except through the door called the way was considered a thief and a robber. You're going to come through the way. You're going to come and you're going to put your prayer request on our representation of the altar. From there, you're going to come to the brazen laver. Now, if you don't remember everything, don't worry, I'm going to be here. I'll direct you. You're going to come to the brazen laver. I've got verses that I'm going to put this over there. If you'd like to read these, this is Psalm 24. Who may go up to the mountain of Yah? Who can stand in his holy place? Those who have clean hands and a pure heart. By the word Selah is in there twice. I'm going to put this right next to it if you'd like to read these or your own wording, whatever you'd like to do. It's your relationship, not mine. And but I want you to put your hands and see, look into that mirror. And see your reflection. There's a mirror right there. Look and see your reflection. Wash your hands. I don't have a towel there because that represents the word. I don't think we should wipe that off. You're going to come from there to our menorah. The menorah will be lit. We're going to have a lot of lights off. Well, a lot of this will be off. So the menorah, and what I want, you know how we do on Havdalah, if you've ever done Havdalah, is you put your hands up against the candle, and you can see that light. Think about those words of Isaiah 11, the wisdom and understanding and power. Think of those, and imagine that light coming into you and through you. You're going to go from there to the table of showbread. There's 12 loaves of pita. Folks, don't go through there real fast. Some of the greatest revelations that from people have been right there. Stop. Take some of the bread. Eat, partake. Commune. That's where the true wording of commune comes. You're going to go from there to our altar of incense. Breathe in the incense. Now, the priest would go from there into the Holy of Holies. By the way, it kind of looks like a chuppah. But I don't let you go there yet. We have a representation of the execution stake of Yeshua. Got tallit, my tallit on there. I want you to go, before you come here, acknowledge why you're here. Acknowledge that without Him, this is a journey I would never be able to take. And from there, you can enter in. If you'd like, it's optional. You can enter in and just be. Selah. I had a lady one time that walked through this. Afterwards, she was telling me about it. She said, I walked in there and I stood there and raised my hands and said, okay, what do you want me to do? You want me to praise you? You want me to worship you? Finally, she heard this, shh. She said, I finally stopped long enough and I heard him say, Pam, I don't want you to do anything. I just want you to be here with me a few minutes. I miss you. And for those that have been watching, we'll be back with you very soon, and we'll be taking you through, each one of you. Thank you. So we begin our experience in the tabernacle, the same as the Israelites did in the wilderness, with an invitation to come through a gate that tradition says was called the way into His presence. So follow me, and let's take this journey together. As we walk through the gate, our first stop is at the altar of sacrifice. Prayers of people as they would have placed an animal upon this altar. But today we place our prayers here. So those prayers that you may have written out, I'd like you to imagine that your prayers are being added to the prayers of others. The same as it says in the book of Revelation, that our prayers are being added, they're being stored up for a day in which they will be placed upon an altar and go forth. This altar of sacrifice ties with the altar of incense, that our prayers begin by accepting and receiving the shed blood of Messiah. But that's the beginning, because that shed blood then gives us the right, the honor, the opportunity to move forward, to go to the laver, representing the Word. And it's here that we look in the mirror of the Word, all of us coming up short. But when the blood is applied to the Word, then we become righteous in His sight. And so we can daily reach deeply into the water of the Word, drawing forth from it, cleansing our hands, cleansing our inmost being, and allowing us to receive the life from His Word. His Word then instructs us to come and to receive His light, but then to be His light. You can take your hands and consider that His light, He desires. Interesting that still have the water of that Word that's dripping from my hands. He desires that His Word would mix with His light, and it would flow through our life, not just into our life, but through our life. That our hands become His hands, giving forth into this world His light. That we become the revelation that is written in Isaiah chapter 11, receiving the fullness, beginning with the shamash, the center candle. That the journey begins with a revelation of His Spirit in our lives. And through that we receive wisdom and understanding of power and might and a fear and reverence of Him, which then takes us to the table of showbread. On the table of showbread, the bread of faces, the place in which He gives forth His revelation through His tribes, through His people. It represents Israel, that Israel is to partake of Him, and then Israel is to be the revelation of His face upon this earth. And so I take a piece of this bread and take this for each of you. And go to the altar of incense, frankincense, the tiny pieces known as the tears. The tears, the frankincense tears that are placed as He has stored up our tears. We place those on an altar of incense and allow our prayers to go up before His throne. As He intercedes for us, we then can intercede for others. From here, the priest would have gone directly into the Holy of Holies. But I'd like you to continue on with me over to a depiction of an execution stake. Messiah, who hung upon a tree, prophesied, hung upon a tree for you and I. Upon this representation, a talit, a prayer shawl, and the zitziot, the blue threads that in Capernaum on the north shore of the Galilee, a woman who said she had an issue of blood longer than Messiah had been in ministry. She had an issue of blood. And she said to herself, if I can just touch the hem of His garment, Malachi had said that the Son of Righteousness shall arise with healing in his wings. She touched the tzitzit. And on that day, holding on to Messiah, she received healing for her body. It's our prayer that you would receive that same Spirit that raised Messiah from the dead would so dwell in you and quicken your mortal body that you may receive healing also. And the greatest healing is not in our physical being, but in our spiritual being. To understand that in Messiah, we can now enter into the presence of the Father. So I'm going to step to the side and allow you a few moments to stand and abide, to be with Him.
Lead me in from the wilderness. Lead me in through the way. I know.
How much do you think you spend on coffee each week? Not a coffee drinker? Well, we won't hold that against you. What about dining out or visiting your favorite frozen yogurt spot? These are all rhetorical questions, of course. Money is a uniquely human issue, one we all have to deal with to one degree or another. Even those who have been financially blessed still have the responsibility to steward their money wisely. We believe one of the best ways to be a good steward of your money is by investing into a ministry you believe in, because you're making an investment into the kingdom. Here at the Hebraic Roots Network, we have responsibilities just like anyone else, such as paying staff, maintaining equipment, and keeping the lights on. But these are just some of the basic day-to-day financial obligations we are responsible for. We also have the responsibility to fulfill and expand the mission upon which this multifaceted ministry was founded, to bring Torah to the nations and ultimately build up the body of Messiah by sharing the truth in love. As we look down the road ahead of us, we're excited about the things that will soon be coming into fruition. But it takes faithful prayer and consistent financing to keep this engine running. That's where we need you. First and foremost, we believe in the power of prayer. Whenever you think of us, or if you're watching a show on Revive TV, just say a prayer for us. Secondly, we need funding. Your tithes and donations to this ministry is what allows us to continue providing free on-demand content and live events. We ask that you consider making a tax-deductible contribution to HRN today. There's no donation that is too small or too big. To find out about more ways you can help pioneer new growth in this ministry, visit our website, HebraicRootsNetwork.com, and click Donate. Or just give us a call at our offices at 1-800-657-9820. We earnestly appreciate any contribution you can make, and we pledge to be good stewards of your gifts. No matter how much you can give, your support is making a big difference.